Hi team, in this video I'm going to be talking about the mistakes that I made early on in my healing journey, and coincidentally they are also the mistakes that I see a lot of other people making too, and mistakes that my clients made before they started working with me. When it was 4 years ago, when my nervous system was in a very dysregulated state, I turned to the internet. I turned to YouTube especially. It was a fantastic resource for me to learn different vagus nerve exercises, breath work techniques, and even educate myself around nervous system health and about trauma, healing, and subjects of that nature. But I still felt, after probably around about 6 months of trying a wide variety of things, that I was stuck and I was overwhelmed and I was disappointed because nothing really seemed to be shifting the needle the way that I wanted it to be, because obviously I was seeking support, I was seeking solutions, I was wanting to feel better, and it wasn't the lack of effort that I was putting in, but upon reflection I now also see that I was missing a lot of the foundational things and the support and the guidance on that journey too. So today I'm going to talk about 6 mistakes that I made and try and give you some examples of these things too. If you are new to this channel, my name is Donna Louise and I am a trauma-trained somatic practitioner, functional breathwork coach, a clinical EFT practitioner, and I'm also a trainee counsellor. And I've been helping people for the last 2 or 3 years now to get out of survival mode, to restore their nervous system, and to reconnect with themselves, as that's the journey that I went on too. I also want to say that if you are someone that has a dysregulated nervous system, you know you're living in survival mode, or you're currently looking to heal from trauma, some of the things I might talk about in this video can potentially create some activation in your nervous system. So I want to invite you to check in with your capacity today, and remember that if you do feel overwhelmed by anything that I'm saying, you can always pause this video and come back to it at another time. Mistake number 1 is that I was making it up as I was going along. I was taking bits and pieces of different people's information and different exercises and different things that I saw on social media, hacks around nervous system health, and I was piecing it together, trying to make that work for me. And what I was not doing in that way, by doing it that way, was addressing the root cause. So I was focused on trying out all these activities, hoping that it would regulate my nervous system, that it would reset my nervous system, but it was only helping to manage the symptoms that I was feeling from a dysregulated nervous system in the first place. It wasn't actually addressing the root cause. And therefore it wasn't until I started working with somebody that was able to help me identify what that root cause was. And this involves us working with professionals that can help us feel safe, help us to be resourced, help us to feel grounded, so that we have the capacity to explore the work. And often there are certain things that have happened to us that we haven't spoken to people about before. Maybe we've not even said it to ourselves before. And some of those things can be at the root cause of the dysregulation. And therefore just trying different nervous system hacks, different vagus nerve exercises, cold water exposure, cathartic breathwork techniques, even things like doing EFT tapping, these can provide short-term solutions, best case scenario. Worst case scenario, they can cause further overwhelm and further dysregulation, and in some cases re-traumatization, but they don't address the root cause of why the nervous system was dysregulated in the first place. So me trying to piece it all together by myself wasn't leading to the lasting results that I was hoping for. and that I expected because of the effort that I was also putting in. It's really important to understand that part of healing from trauma includes co-regulation. We need to be able to connect with other people in a safe way. We need to have safe relationships in our life in order to help our nervous system feel regulated to some capacity. This is because we are wired for connection. We are wired actually for social engagement and our ability to connect and to bond and to love other people and to receive that in return. We have this base physiological need for connection and community, and often this is the missing piece. So this relates to, you know, me piecing it together bit by bit and hoping it would all work out as I was making it up as I would go along. When you work with a therapist, when you work with a practitioner, a counsellor, you are building that co-regulation relationship in that therapeutical space, which is extremely nourishing for the nervous system. So much healing actually comes from the therapeutical relationship itself, not the exercises that that practitioner or therapist will give you or ask you to do. It comes just from being witnessed by a safe person, having them hold space for you to feel safe, to open up and share about what you want to share about and about how you are feeling with that, and for somebody else to witness that without making judgment, without giving you advice, and in some capacity helping to validate your experience is one of the most nourishing things for your nervous system that so many people are very unaware of. I actually have a video on this, which I think is called the most overlooked piece of nervous system health, and it is co-regulation. Mistake number 2 was when I started working with a practitioner. I actually in the beginning outsourced the healing work to only when I was with them. So I was expecting that relationship, that process to do all the heavy lifting. And I was waiting each week before I would have my session, at the time of having my session, to do the work that I was there to do, but I wasn't doing very much in between that. I was kind of putting that therapist in a position of authority instead of me taking responsibility as well for my own healing. And there needs to be both things. Co-regulation is a very important part of healing the nervous system, but so is self-regulation, and we need to have both. So it's not that if we start working with somebody else we don't need to do the other things for ourselves in between sessions. We also have to show up for ourselves, learn how to self-regulate, learn how to be well resourced, to be self-aware, to be self-compassionate, and to do the other things that are necessary to support ourselves during that time. Which leads me on to mistake number 3, was that I didn't have this holistic mind-body approach to healing in the beginning. Sorry, I'm just waving away a mosquito. I either focused on activities to do with the mind, or then I focused on activities to do with the body, or I was isolating things and doing, you know, a certain amount of this stuff for however many weeks, and then doing some of those things for a couple of months. And actually what really helped to move the needle was having this holistic approach where I was doing a little bit of quite a lot of things. So I was ensuring that I was improving my diet, I was increasing my hydration, I was trying to get outside early in the morning to get natural sunlight, I was focused on trying to get as many fruits and vegetables in my diet as possible. I began to go to the gym and do strength training some days, but then I also did a little bit of dance, and then I started to work with a therapist, and I also started to make new friendships, and I looked at my nervous system hygiene as well, so things like paying more attention to my interoceptive cues, getting less screen time. There's so many things that were involved and it really required this holistic approach, not one thing or another thing, but actually learning how to do a little bit of all of those things as well, which sounds really overwhelming. I do appreciate that. I didn't do them all at the same time. It took time for me to build those into the lifestyle that I needed to create, which leads me on to my fourth point, which is that nothing changes if nothing changes. And I was keeping, my mistake was that I was keeping that old lifestyle, but I was just adding in therapy, adding in this bit and then the other bit, but not making enough of those changes for that holistic approach to actually compound. The boundaries between these mistakes are blurred and overlapping. By the way, they're not clean cut, but it was realizing that I had to do things differently, and that also looked at even like small things. So I know I've mentioned food, I've mentioned movement, changing friendships or making new friendships with people in different ways that were more boundaried, and that there was more respect, I suppose, there, like building new friendships in really healthy ways. And also things like changing my environment to be more comfortable, stopping to watch like murder programs, true crime detective programs, especially in the evening, just realizing that was really making me anxious. I learned about something called vicarious trauma, which people can definitely get from watching horror movies. And that comes from seeing other people's suffering. And when we're exposing ourselves to TV shows that tell these true crime stories, or even when they're not real and they're just with actors, it can cause so much dysregulation in the nervous system. So I went through a stage of cutting that out, changing my habits. So I went through, I believe it was 6 months with no alcohol and no caffeine, moved to decaf. I'm still on decaf and I drink very little alcohol now. So all of these habits have really stuck with me. They're maybe not as extreme as what they were when I first started. I just kind of realized that I needed to make changes if I wanted to feel any different. So that was mistake number 4. Mistake number 5 is that I wasn't very consistent with the basic things. So circling back to those vagus nerve exercises, those breathwork techniques, EFT tapping, etc. I was using those tools when I was feeling activated, and I wasn't at that point in those first 6 months doing a lot of those daily regulation nervous system hygiene techniques that I've spoke about before, such as listening to my interoceptive cues and acting upon them. So that looked like when I needed the bathroom, going to the bathroom, when I needed to eat, eating, when I need to rest, resting, etc. Yawning, coughing, needing to pass gas. These basic instructions that I was getting from my body about what it needed, I needed to start actually listening and acting upon them and not putting them off or ignoring them. Also, like I said in another mistake, which was like changing my environment. learning about what is in your environment, that when you look around your space, what is there that is bothering you, what is there that makes you feel activated in some capacity, it makes you feel uncomfortable, and doing something about it takes away these low level stresses of activation in your life, and just makes your space a much safer place to be in, as well as like learning how to resource that space and add in more things that bring you peace or joy or comfort, etc. Those are those basic things, not listening to really activating music in the morning. I used to have a playlist when I went to the gym that was, you know, very energizing and very motivating, but first thing in the morning I've learned that I need a much slower ease into the day, and so now I go to the gym and I listen to like chill out music whilst I'm working out, because I go to the gym at around about 7 o'clock most mornings, and this has done wonders for my nervous system. I also work out, and I speak about this a lot in other videos, I dim the lights in my apartment most of the time, and when I go to the gym in the morning and I'm the only person there on many occasions, I only have like a quarter of the lights on, and I work out in a less stimulated environment. These things, these daily things, along with coherent breathing, working on my breath and checking that my breathing was correct, because that was exasperating symptoms of anxiety and dysregulation. I needed to become consistent with the basics and not only turn to tools and exercises and hacks when I felt dysregulated, because the more that you can practice these basic things, like I've said, interoceptive cues, working and exploring the things that activate you in your environment or make you feel more nourished in your environment, looking at your breath, practicing functional breathwork techniques that are just nourishing and supportive for the nervous system. The more that you practice these things on a daily basis, less screen time and this stuff, the more that you practice these things on a daily basis, the less activated you are going to become, because you are supporting your nervous system when it is not in a fight or flight activated state. Obviously, many of us feel that we are living in that state most of the time, so I appreciate that, but there are moments of ease within that. And it's in exploring nervous system techniques and tools in that space of not being activated that helps us to build a better and bigger window of tolerance, so that when stressors do happen in our life, we have more capacity to deal with it. And finally, number 6. I think this is number 6. I actually can't remember how many of these I've done because I kind of mixed up the order. But number 6 was one of the mistakes that I was making early on in my healing journey, was judging myself so much for not healing quick enough. And I've spoke about this in other videos as well, thinking that I should be further along and always wondering, when am I going to feel better? When is this going to change? How long is this going to take? And criticizing myself, shaming myself in some capacity for number 1, for being in that position in the first place, and also number 2, for not being able to resolve it soon enough. And why did it look so easy when I watched everybody else doing it online? Why did they always seem to have found the thing that was going to transform their life and made them regulated very quickly and healed their nervous system seemingly overnight? And I wasn't having that experience, so I had a lot of self-criticism about that, and that was a mistake, because you cannot heal your nervous system if you don't feel safe. And you criticizing yourself, berating yourself, judging yourself, it doesn't create safety. You can't heal in this environment where you are putting yourself down. And that self-judgment just doesn't create the safety that's required. Your internal dialogue is just as important for your nervous system health as these things that you do on the outside. So if you have been on a healing journey for a while and you're feeling concerned that maybe the things that you're trying on working, perhaps it's time to look at the foundations and focus on the foundations instead of looking for more tools to add in. And if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed or unsure what to actually prioritize, then I would be more than happy to work with you. You can book a free consultation call with me via the link in the description below this video. And if you've enjoyed this video, please consider sharing it and subscribing to the channel. And if you've got any questions, any thoughts or any concerns, please pop them in the comments box. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Otherwise, take very good care.